Thank you, thank you. I'll be honest, I was gonna talk about Reputation this week, but I forgot all my funny fake jewelry at home. So we're doing Speak Now now. Speak Now now. We are now speaking on Speak Now. Now we shall speak on Speak Now. In 2010, Taylor Swift became the youngest artist ever to win Album of the Year at the Grammys. Her record has since been broken by Billie Eilish, and no one really cares about the Grammys anymore, but at the time, it was a big deal. And the problem with winning Album of the Year so early on in your career is that you now have these enormous shoes to fill with your next release. So today, we're going to be looking at the follow-up album and seeing how well she was able to fill those shoes. I probably should have done Fearless before this, but whatever. If you guys didn't know, I'm currently releasing a series of videos on Taylor Swift's most popular albums, and every penny that I make off of this series will be put towards purchasing tickets to see Taylor in concert. But Jason, why would you put all of your eggs in a basket as unreliable as YouTube ad revenue? Well, I'm a broke college student, dude, so YouTube ad revenue may be unreliable, but it's all I got. And we're doing pretty well so far. We definitely still have a ways to go, but I think we made a pretty good dent into it. I think it might actually be possible for us to buy the tickets, which, like, if you look at the start of this series, I really didn't think that was possible at all. So thank you guys. Thank you so much. And if you'd like to help out on this video, a like really does go a long way. But with that out of the way, welcome back to the Eras Saga. I know, I'm reusing the hoodie that I had in my Sour video, but I just don't own anything else that's purple. Of all of Taylor Swift's albums, I think this one definitely has the least variety, which I think I said was the case for 1989 last week, but I changed my mind, it's this one, okay? Literally all these songs feel like they use the same 5 instruments. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, like there's some guitar parts in these songs that I actually really like, but it's just the same guitar in every single song. You know, like, it gets old. But at this point in her career, she definitely didn't feel as inclined to experiment. And even though it's her 3rd studio album, she was still only like 19. So this album was definitely her trying to flesh out her sound a little more. And I personally am a genuine believer that as long as you're not one of those weirdos that only listens to hip hop, there's at least one Taylor Swift song out there that you'll like. But this album is so not girly. Like, it's not over the top with it, but of all her albums, Speak Now is definitely the most in touch with its femininity. Probably because this album is the transition between teen Taylor and adult Taylor, so she's just, you know, kind of having her moment. And that, combined with how outdated these songs feel, made this album really hard, probably the hardest for me to resonate with of all her stuff. But you know what? I feel like this video so far has just been one backhanded compliment after another, so let's say some nice things about the album, you know? I did enjoy it. The songs are definitely outdated, but it also feels pretty nostalgic, and I didn't even listen to her when I was little. But like when I was 6, I was very much a Jonas Brothers kid, you know, I listened to Burnin' Up, SOS. That's pretty much it, just those 2 songs on repeat. And this album definitely feels like it falls into that similar sound of like teen rock, you know? So for the same reason I still listen to Burnin' Up occasionally, this type of music is really nice because if you let go of your inhibitions and kind of throw your masculinity in the backseat, it's just really fun. The people that can't enjoy the occasional corny song are the same ones that get annoyed at friends for having a laugh track. It just pulls me out of it, man. Like, I can't enjoy it. Like, get off your fucking high horse, dude, okay? You don't watch Friends as a replacement for going to the opera. You watch it because it's easy to watch and it's just fun, you know? And the same applies to listening to this album, in my opinion. But it does go both ways. Like, Friends is one of my favorite shows, but I'm not about to claim that it's the best show ever created. You know, like, comparing something like Friends to the likes of Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones just feels kind of dumb. And that's why I personally don't really get when people say this is their favorite Taylor Swift album, because I feel like it's almost blindly overlooking some of her other deeper, dare I say, better albums. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. I do think that these songs are better than the ones on Fearless. I think. I really should have done that video first, but... And like I was saying earlier about it being the transition from teenager to woman, this album has a balance of serious moments, like in Dear John and Back to December, and more innocent, sort of hopeless romantic moments in songs like Sparks Fly or Enchanted. One of the things I really liked about Red is how Taylor attacks those songs from a more realistic, mature point of view. Not to the point of it being pessimistic, but it just doesn't romanticize love in the same way that her earlier songs did. I can't wait for that video, man. I'm gonna fucking feast, bro. But Speak Now is a transition into that more serious tone while still maintaining some of that youth. It's like she's old enough to not be too green, but hasn't really faced the real hard parts of life yet, even though this is post Kanye. But in the off chance you were, I don't know, maybe kind of sort of interested in my thoughts on the songs individually, it's alright.
It's a banger! It's a
Meh. Sad, but it's really slow, and honestly got bored after a while. But I love how she incorporated that soft electric guitar as like a nod to John Mayer, you know? Such like a nice, you know, subtle dig. I like that this one's really country, because it's just a nice change up, and the part where she goes, "You're mean, and mean, and mean." Like, I don't know, that was just funny to me. I liked it. It's really fun. Like, I enjoyed the concept of the song, but it really just feels like more of the same stuff, so it's kind of forgettable if I'm being honest. It's alright. Please just don't be in love with someone. But I saw this TikTok about it being about the Owl City guy, and like apparently like when he found out it was about him, he did like his own version of it, and it's really cringe, bro. He wrote this like whole love letter too. Like, oh my god, the fact that people could get away with that back then is just absurd. Meh. I actually fucking love this song. Like, the intro is so grand. Come on, don't leave me like this. Oh my god, bro. Meh. It's alright. Like, I get it. It's the Swiftie anthem. But disregarding that context, kinda meh. Meh. Actually slaps. Like, it's not button worthy, but really good. And meh. I feel like the song order on this album is kinda ass. Like, it goes from happy to sad to happy like 10 times. And it doesn't really matter because the songs are still good. But it does matter, at least to me. Like, why would you put Better Than Revenge right after Enchanted? They're basically opposites. And yeah, I wouldn't say that there's a predominant theme to this album, but I feel like with all of the earlier Taylor Swift albums, the theme is just her. Or like her at the time she's writing them. Because as different as these songs are from each other, they all feel like they're written by a 19 to 20-year-old Taylor Swift, you know? And it's that variety of emotions that I think better encapsulates a time of your life. Because you're never always sad or always happy. So I had this whole segment of Swiftie's Writer's Workshop where I dove into Back to December, but it was kind of ass, so I'm scrapping it because what I realized about Speak Now is a lot of the lyrics are kind of face value. They're well written and they're concise, but there's just not many metaphors or like deeper meanings to that I would be able to analyze. You read it once and you kind of get the gist. So instead I wanted to dive into a bit of the, I guess, context surrounding this album. Usually I like to avoid talking about context because I feel like, you know, we're an outside perspective. We really don't know what was going on at all. So while I'll make jokes about Joshua Bassett or Jake Gyllenhaal or whatever, we don't know the relationship. I don't feel comfortable pretending like I know just because I'm hearing one side of the story. But, I mean, I don't need to be a genius to see how fucked up and gross it was to have a 30-something-year-old John Mayer date a 19-year-old Taylor Swift. And I'm not the biggest fan of Dear John. I think lyrically there's a lot there, but it just moves really slow. And, you know, the truth is, like, lyrics are only so much of the music, you know? Like, I care, but like I want it to also sound good, you know? See, I think one of the biggest reasons that Taylor Swift received backlash from just like non-Swifties in the media is because they see what she does as antagonizing celebrities and turning her audience against them. On one hand, the media twists that shit in a way that I just can't really comprehend at all. And it also feels like a really big generalization, you know? I don't think that Taylor Swift is setting out to turn her audience against these people. I think she's just writing personal songs. And when you include those details, it's a sacrifice, you know? On one hand, you're striking a much deeper chord with your audience and with whoever's listening to those songs, but on the other hand, it puts you in this weird spot where now you're private life is pretty public. And I do think that Taylor Swift doesn't mean to turn her audience against these people. I think what happens is Swifties are so obsessed with Taylor Swift and so supportive of her. It's like when you listen to a friend rant about a heartbreak for hours and at the end you just want to slap the bitch in the face. Or guy, you know, case by case. I would never hit a woman, okay? But you get what I'm trying to say. So I think when you lay out all the facts, it's hard not to side with Taylor Swift, but a lot of Swifties are very, like, just completely villainizing these people that, you know, messed up. Like, they did something wrong. There's no justification for what John Mayer did. We don't really know the details of what Jake Gyllenhaal did, but we can assume he was kind of an asshole. But, like, everyone fucks up, you know? I don't think it's right to send hate towards anyone, regardless of any situation. I think Swifties just have this tendency of getting really emotional and protective of Taylor Swift, when in actuality, I don't think she needs it. I think she can handle it. You know, she's good. But heartbreak is everywhere, you know? The same person that will have their heart broken could probably go on to break someone else's heart. That doesn't make them a bad person. That's just life, you know? Like, people hurt people. So if you're a Swiftie watching this that is felt hateful towards John Mayer or Jake Gyllenhaal, I would encourage you to just not think about it that way. I just feel like, you know, life sucks. That should be what the big takeaway is, not this person sucks. Life sucks. Because if we're judging someone for fucking up and doing something gross and stupid, we're all losers. We all do stupid and horrible things. John Mayer did something gross and disgusting, and I'm not defending it at all because it's fucked. But we're not better than him. You know, we're all humans. We're all the same. So just stop being hateful, man. You know, it's kind of hypocritical. How are you going to talk about how Taylor Swift gets all this hate and then send hate out to other people? It just doesn't make sense. But I'm also not really sure if people really take that John Mayer stuff to heart, or if it's just for the memes. If it's for the memes, then this whole part was completely pointless, but if it isn't, I don't know, man. I hope all that made sense. So it was kind of, clearly this is unscripted, but I like this album a lot. I think it's good. I got a lot of comments on my first Taylor Swift video saying that this album is the first album that she ever wrote alone, because apparently she caught some slack for having co-writers on her previous albums, which I don't really get. Like, especially back then, how many artists do you know that actually wrote all of their songs alone, let alone a teenager? But keeping that in mind when listening to this album, it definitely shows. Like, none of these songs are particularly bad, but they all follow really similar structures and hit on a lot of the same beats instrumentally, lyrically, and vocally. And honestly, I feel like an artist writing all their songs completely on their own is seen as this, like, sacred thing. But what's wrong with getting a second opinion? Bouncing ideas off of someone does wonders for anything creative. Writers have editors, no one makes a movie alone. Getting different opinions, working with people is so important. So I think surrendering that total control, that sacredness, right, and being open to sharing the load with someone is actually more respectable, because it shows that they care more about the craft than getting the credit. They care more about being able to make the best song possible than being able to say, yeah man, I did it on my own. Yeah, I'm actually like an artist. So yeah, I'm glad that she proved her skills. Like, she clearly did a good job, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I bet a lot of the Swifties that like this album the most probably like it because she's the sole writer. So on paper, it's probably the most personal to her, right? And that's cool, but to me, how personal something is really doesn't matter at all. Like, if I farted into a mic and I said, yeah man, that fart was super personal to me, that doesn't make it a good song. Yeah, if there's nice sentiment to it, of course it can help, but I've seen a lot of people say that they like an album or a song just because it's personal to the artist. A great example is when a Swiftie says, Long Live is my favorite on the album because she wrote that song for us. Like, okay, I just don't personally see what that has to do with the song being good. But of course, you guys are free to like whatever you like. This isn't about a gatekeeping thing. I'm just expressing how I personally see it. But anyways, these arrangements are all so similar and just, like, not bland, but they're just so similar that it becomes bland while you're listening to the album. So I'm going to give it a 6.5. For reference, that's the same grade that I gave ESV by Miley Cyrus. Honestly, sitting on it more while I'm editing this, I'm leaning more towards a 7. Because yeah, the songs do sound similar, and I think it does kind of hinder the quality of the overall album a little bit, but not enough to make it a 6.5. I think the really good songs on this album are really good. And even something like Dear John, like, even though I said earlier it's not my favorite song, I don't really like it that much, it was an honorable mention for my top 5, Like, it's a good fucking song, there's no denying it. I guess I just kind of think that I don't like it as much as a lot of other Taylor Swift listeners. Like, they put it in the same conversation as, like, All Too Well. I don't really see it. It's far from a bad album, but to me, it's kind of like busting out all the fanciest swimming strokes in a kiddie pool. Like, Speak Now definitely showcases Taylor Swift's skills and her potential as a songwriter, but it feels like there's a lid on it. And who knows, maybe if she did work with other writers for this album, she might have been able to break through that threshold, but it's fine, it's not a big deal. And guys, before you start correcting me, I know that she went on to write most of her songs alone after this, but there's a difference between writing songs alone and going in with the mindset of, I'm writing all these songs with no help. Because at least you're open to second opinions, I feel like if you go in with that mindset, you're more limited creatively. Here's my top 5. These songs are honestly fucking bangers. Listening to these songs individually slaps, but in the context of the album, just not as much. Anyways, that's pretty much it for today. Comment down below your favorite song on the album and where this album ranks amongst your favorite Taylor Swift albums. Subscribe if you're new, like this video. All that jazz is more than just jazz. It helps out a lot. And thank you so much for all the support. I'll see you guys next week.
Please don't be in love with someone else. Please don't climb down with Please don't be in love with someone else.